Hello and welcome to a very special 25th anniversary Eurogamer podcast. If you're watching this in video, you probably know why it's special. I, Bertie, am surrounded by the former editors of Eurogamer. We've got all but two of them here, so we lack the current editor Tom Phillips and his predecessor Martin Robinson, and they can't be here because they're in Germany at Gamescom. But I bet they're having a conciliatory sausage to make up for it. Everyone else, though, we've got going right back to the foundation of Eurogamer in 1999. So we've got John By, the original editor of Eurogamer. Hey, John, how are you doing?
Hello. Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Lovely to finally meet you. I was saying before the call started that you're the one person here, actually, that I have never met before. And it's a real pleasure. You're appeared. You're real.
He hasn't said anything yet. He might be awful. You don't know. How do you know?
How does it feel seeing all these editors that would follow you in the flesh around you? Is that weird? A weird feeling? I mean,
a little bit. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a long time ago now, but I was kind of there right from the start. With the Lohman brothers and so on back in the day. It's amazing that it's still going strong after so long. And great to see all of the, ghosts of editors past reassembling here today.
John, that's a much better way of putting it than I put it. You should be a writer. What do you do now, John? Because you work in the industry, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. After I left Eurogamer, I spent a bit of time making mods for Neverwinter Nights, and then that kind of led into... Yeah, I kind of started that when I was at Eurogamer. We actually had an online server that ran for a short time just before I left. I spent about a year on that, just kind of building up my CV and getting some experience in quest design and scripting and so on. And then that led into a job working on Fable on the original Xbox. I worked on cutscenes for Fable. I did some quest design and scripting for the Lost Chapters, which was the kind of expanded PC version of the game. And I've been working in the games industry for 20 years now.
Peter Molyneux's got a new game. You could go and work for him again.
I have actually interviewed with him a couple of times since I left Lionhead. I mostly work on mobile games these days. I'm currently an economy designer at Natural Motion, which is the company behind the CSR franchise. I've done all kinds of things over the years. I spent a year freelancing for us two games on Albera Wildlife Adventure. Worked at Headstrong Games for a while, worked on House of the Dead Overkill, which I did some work there on the incidental dialogue for the game, which I like to think helped push us over the top and to get a Guinness World Record for the most profanity in a video game ever, which was not bad for a very short light gun game.
What is the most profanity in a video game ever? I'm curious.
I think we did get beaten by an open world game a year or two later, but obviously that was 10 times longer than us. I think in terms of sheer density of F-bombs, I think we're probably still way up there.
Assassin's Creed, go fuck yourself. I think that was the one.
Love that game. Okay, we'll leave it there for now. We've got Kristan Reed. I'm doing this in sort of sequential editor order. We've got Kristan Reed, who I haven't seen for a long time. Hey, Kristan, from all the way up in Scotland, I believe.
Yeah, I'm up in Glasgow for my sins, because I really like rain. There wasn't enough rain in Brighton, I found.
Is it raining there at the moment?
No, I mean, uncharacteristically, the sun is shining. What can I say? It happens occasionally.
So, Kristan, you're one of the other people here who I think you left before Wesley joined the company, actually. In fact, you definitely did.
Very slightly before, yeah.
So, yeah, that's not such an overlap there. When was the last time you saw some of the people in the school?
Well, I see Tom all the time. We still work together. Ellie I've seen in the flesh during one of her amazing comedy nights in Edinburgh. I haven't seen Oli for some years, I don't think. Can't remember the last time, actually. It's been a while. He hasn't changed remotely. It's still exactly the same. Where's I don't think I've seen you for a long time either. And John, I've never met you. This is
Yeah,
very,
because it was
very,
like a
very strange.
sliding
I've
doors
known the
moment.
name for so long. The name has gone down in legend, and literally in all that time, I never even knew what you looked like. So now I know.
John, did you ever wonder who was taking over from you and what they would do with the site?
Not really, to be honest. I mean,
Just don't
you
care.
know, I mean, I knew there were a lot of good people there. Obviously, Tom was there as I think you were assistant editor at the time. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and
John,
then we
sorry
had a
to
couple of
interrupt.
really
Did
good
you
staff
hire
writers.
Tom?
I can't remember if I was involved in that process or not. I think you kind of. When did you come on? Was it right at the start, or was it slightly later?
It was sort of February the next year, so 2000.
Yeah.
I can't remember. The earliest thing I can remember, I was trying to think about this earlier, is that I had a lunch meeting with the Lomans. I can't remember if you were there or not, but we saw each other very soon after that. My main memory of you is you and me going to the playing fields, the subterranean pre-esports dungeon, and covering Quake tournaments and stuff. Yeah, those are some good times.
Do you know, I did my school work experience at the playing field.
Did you really? Oh my god! That's...
Coincidentally, as all things
I
overlap.
can't even remember
Rupert
where it
sorted
was.
it out for me.
Yeah, right, okay. I can't remember where it was
Park,
in London.
Warren Street.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was near Warren Street Tube. I've been there many times covering various press events and tournaments over the years.
Yeah, it was like
Euroquake was there, wasn't it? I think.
I think so, yeah. And I know we had like the Quake 3 Arena and Unreal Tournament launch events were both there for the UK as well. So yeah,
Do you know, I got to
a lot
the
of stuff happened.
final of the Quake 2 free-for-all Euroquake, only because all the good players were playing in the clan games, and I came 10th in the final. Well, whatever. We'll move on from that.
Did they not invite you to the Esports World Cup this year then to celebrate? Or
it probably went to my spam folder.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough.
So as you can hear, we've got Tom Bramwell back in the house. Tom, it's a pleasure to see you again.
Yes, indeed. Very nice to see you, Bertie. It's lovely to see everyone, actually. It's been a very long time in some cases. Obviously, I see Kristan all the time, but that doesn't mean it's any less nice to see Kristan now. Yeah, so... Oh, sorry. My Galahorn rocket launcher has slipped over next to me. Apologies. Stealth Destiny podcast. Hello. Yes. Was there a question? Oh, you wanted me to do what they've done? Or...
No. Well, I was curious to ask. You mentioned that you worked with Kristan now. What is it that you both do?
We're part of a shadowy cabal of game consultants, inserting woke politics into video games around the world.
I knew it.
Yeah, it's all true. It's us. We're doing it. Kristan does the black female leads, and I do lesbianism.
They used to uphold the patriarchy, but there's less of a market for that now.
It's fallen off. Massively fallen off.
You go where the money is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, obviously they don't pay the women the same
now. In all seriousness, we do like game consultancy stuff. So it's probably not as glamorous as it sounds. We play a lot of games and tell the people making them how where between 7 and 7.8 to score where the level that they're going to end up.
True.
It's so true, but yeah, it's good fun. It's basically like reviewing games, but the people who receive your reviews don't call you a prick. They actually say thank you and then try and use the information to get a better result.
How brutal can you be in one of these mock reviews if the game's really not very good?
Well, I mean, like, it can be. It depends. You always like word it constructively because it's a business report, so you're not going to do.
Not like on Eurogamer.
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't like immediately go for a metaphor about a bear having a wank or something. But
it's less creative.
It's not. It doesn't allow as much flair. I get told off by my editor for using Latin and things like that, or British English, in fact. No, it's you can be very. I mean, like they want to know if the game's rubbish. They want to know it's rubbish because then they can try and fix it. If you sort of dance around it, then there's kind of no point to the process.
Fantastic. I'm going to jump quickly on Tom. It's lovely to have you back here, Ellie. So lovely to see you again. Thank you for joining us from what is probably a world tour.
Obviously, this is my Vegas residency. I'm having lunch with Adele in a minute, so let's keep it snappy. No, this is lovely. It's really taking me back, being the only woman in a room full of middle-aged white men. It's just like the old days, isn't it? It's just like the old days. In fact, it's like the new days, because now I work in comedy. So also, this is still a lot of times this is my life. So it's lovely. Yeah.
Oh, it's a genuine pleasure. And I wondered how long it would be until someone mentioned that infamous line about a bear having a wank. What was the actual line in this? Was an Alan Wake review. It's a shame that you weren't around for the Alan Wake 2 review.
It is, isn't that a shame? I did stream it though, because I do Twitch now, like a young person.
You do. It's very entertaining. I've watched them.
Oh, thank you. I did stream it, and I did take the piss out of it quite considerably on the stream, which was all fun and games until I had to present the BAFTA for Best Sound to the man who worked on the sound for Alan Wake 2 at the BAFTAs, with all the Alan Wake people, including the main one, whatever he's called, Sam, I don't know. They were all sat there like sort of slow clapping me. In my head, they probably didn't give a shit. But yes, so that's come. No, I stand by. So for those who don't know, so I wrote the review of Alan Wake, and I gave it, I think, 7 out of 10. And I maintain, and your Mrs. Kristan agrees with me, and she's a very, very prominent video games journalist, unlike all these pricks. I gave it 7 out of 10. And Keza agrees that I'm on the right side of history, and that is the right score for that game. And I absolutely 100% stand by it. But the point is, I wrote in the thing, the cars sound, when you drive the lorry, it sounds like a bear having a wank. And Tom took it out of the review, as was his job as an editor. And I was incensed. I remember the audience being incensed, but
they were. You were,
yeah.
You and the audience were correct. It's not the only time that has been the case.
Yeah, you were on the wrong side of history.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so you very kindly put it back in. And funny enough, just the other day, I'm trying to write a novel, and I was trying to describe the sound of a car, of a Jeep in the forest. And I was like, can I use bear having a wank? Or maybe it's been done. Maybe the moment's passed. So we'll see.
So it's such a fantastic line. How long was it before that line was edited?
I can't remember. I mean, it was hours, probably. I don't know.
You're asking, I mean, it's like 20 years ago or something. 10, 15 years ago, I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm 46, Bertie. I can't remember what happened yesterday. Don't,
I love it. A bit of Eurogamer deep lore there.
There you go.
So, Oli Welsh, it doesn't feel like that long since I last saw you, since I was last podcasting with you, in fact, about your life.
Oh my gosh, that's right. When was that? Like, shortly before I left?
21, yeah. Maybe January 21?
Yeah.
Something like that. Welcome back. Nice to see you.
And you. It's lovely to be back. It's lovely to see all of you.
Feel free to tell us how bad Polygon is.
It sucks. It's awful.
Knew it!
No, it's actually fantastic. And it's fantastic because after being at Eurogamer 14 years and being editor of it for 7 and going through the pandemic and going through the acquisition, I contacted Chris Plant and I said, basically, Chris Plant is the editor-in-chief of Polygon. He's a wonderful man. And I said, what I'm after is a massive demotion. I want no responsibility. Can you help me? And he was he rescued me. I was very happy for that. Not that I wasn't like incredibly proud of everything, of being part of the Eurogamer journey for so long, but I needed a break. Polygon's lovely. No, it's really, really nice. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but they're just like the nicest people. They don't even slag anybody off in Slack.
No.
Like really
what? No one?
Well, some people.
Who do they have the biggest beef with?
IGN. Sorry, Wes.
Oh God!
It's always IGN. You're the biggest. What can you do? Everyone's gonna have a moan.
Well, I feel like I should say something, but I don't know. Like, we don't think about anyone else at all. So,
by the way,
been there longer.
I was going to say, Wes going to IGN and then buying Eurogamer is a hell of a power move.
Just so you could come back.
I bought it myself, just me.
The company credit card.
Yeah. I still haven't expensed that yet. I should.
No.
Yeah.
Wes, it's
do
lovely.
you want me to talk about stuff?
Yeah. It's lovely to see you. I mean, Wesley was, full disclosure, Wes was in the office yesterday, which was lovely. It feels like when you were here that no time has passed. We were crowding round Craig. Everyone will know Craig, probably. John might not know Craig. Craig Monroe is our tech director. But you may know him from back in the old Quake days. That's a long story, though. But Craig was showing us the past versions of Eurogamer, going all the way back. The Puddle of Wee one with the little yellow circle under the globe, and all the different things. We were crowded round, and it just felt like kind of old times. It feels a little bit like that now. I actually had a dream, Tom Bramwell, with you in the other day, and I was inputting a feature for you in the CMS. I found it really triggering. But there we go. That's too much.
Still quite much process there.
Wes, are you sad that you couldn't get away for good?
Do you know, it was so weird. I will always love Eurogamer and everyone who worked on it and works on it. But when I found out, it's you can hold me to that. But when I found out that IGN was buying Eurogamer Gamer Network, I felt a bit like, you ever see or read Watchmen when Rorschach goes to jail, and he says at one point, "You're not all locked up in here. I'm not all locked up. I'm not locked up in here with you. You're all locked up in here with me." It felt a bit like that. It was like, holy shit! It was pretty weird.
So you found out on the grapevine, and what was your initial reaction? Were you like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense," or were you a bit like, "Holy shit"?
I was very shocked. Of course, I was shocked. Like, I'd only been at IGN for a year, and then all of a sudden, we're buying the company that I left a year ago. It was very shocking. So, yeah, and then I think it was early this year. There was like a gathering at the IGN's London office, and all these people from Gamer Network that I hadn't seen in years started walking in, and it just felt so surreal. I mean, it was lovely seeing everyone, but it was like, thought I'd seen the back of you lot, but here you are. So.
Not so lucky. For those of you who can't see this, I'm actually in a little Gamer Network cube that looks a bit like I'm in hell. It's very red in here, and the lights are low, so it's giving off a vibe. It's actually my last day in the Gamer Network office ever, because the Gamer Network office is closing. For those of you who don't know, was everyone on this call aware of this? John, you probably don't care, but was everyone, and Kristan, I
don't think I've ever seen that office.
Yeah.
Eurogamer was still operating out of the Lehman Brothers garage when I was working.
It was, yeah.
I seem to remember a story about you, John, and I think Mark Kennedy told me this. Mark was one of the original tech director, and he said that you used to make like tuna sandwiches or something with ketchup. Do you remember that?
No, that doesn't sound like me.
That was me.
Must have had me confused with someone else.
With Kristan.
He probably does.
I was going to say it's Kristan.
That was me.
Oh, that was Kristan.
Yeah.
And guess what?
Were they nice?
The kids now have those exact sandwiches, and they love them.
When Kristan and I used to live together, and he would always be in the kitchen whipping up a batch of tuna mayo with ketchup and stuff.
With ketchup.
Sandwiches. Yeah.
Hold on. So you're saying it's not tuna and ketchup; it's tuna mayo and ketchup.
Oh yeah.
And like sweet corn and stuff, right?
Sometimes the kids kind of balk to the sweet corn, but
right.
So there's that, like, because you've got the mayo and sorry, this is.
No, this is important.
I need to know.
This is going way off topic.
I just zoned out for a minute to send Pete a message saying, "Can you bring me some more tea?" And now you're talking about fucking mayonnaise. What have I missed? How did we get here? How have we gone down this rabbit hole?
Well, so if you're mixing the mayo with the ketchup, you're creating a burger sauce, right?
No, that's a prawn cocktail. That's the Mary Rose sauce. That's how you make prawn cocktail.
It's kind of tuna Mary Rose, if you like.
I'm glad that there's some mayonnaise involved, because the idea of just tuna and ketchup together that's a lot.
I mean, that's an option. A dash of Worcester sauce as well as,
Oh, it's fancy now. Okay, I've got a question for everyone.
Is it about sauces? Because I'm just happy to talk about sauces for the next half hour.
Yeah.
What's your favourite? Hollandaise. Okay.
Hollandaise, good shout.
Very good one. Hard to make though.
So,
just put an ice cube if it splits. What?
Ice cube with its flips. That is good law. Good tip. This is a question for everyone. Please be brutal. And I think we'll do a show of hands just because it will be easier for me to see, and then we'll deal with what happens afterwards. So, how many of you still read Eurogamer?
I have to. It's part of my job.
This is brutal. So for the people who are not watching this but listening to this, John Bye does not read Eurogamer. Kristan's middling, and Ellie was a flat no.
I just don't read. I just don't read websites. Sorry, it's nothing against you. I don't read any games websites. I get my games news from people in my Discord and on my stream who go like, "Oh, there's a new Assassin's Creed out," and I go, "Oh, that's nice."
Whoa. Back up. Ellie, you have your own Discord.
I've got my own Discord, yeah.
Oh my god, why haven't you invited me? I want to come into the Ellie Gibson Discord and say hi.
Oh, it's just me. There's no one else on it. It's just me messaging myself. No, it's really, you should come. It's so fun. I love my Discord. We've got a channel where we just talk about tea. We've got a channel where we talk about gadgets. We've got one for shit celebrity gossip, where either the celebrity or the gossip has to be shit. So it might be like, I went to a theatre and met a stage manager and he said that Peter Andre, good celebrity, is a really nice man. Shit gossip. So it's really fun. We talk a lot about Enya and it's Badidas.
Oh, I just found the link. Yeah, it's on your Twitch, isn't it? Right. Okay, I'm just trying to type
is it? That's good.
Yeah.
So this ties into something else that I'm curious about. So John first. When you left, so you left in 2002, and that was the same time Kristan joined and took over. So when you left, what was your relationship to Eurogamer like afterwards? Was it like a hard stop? I'm not going to read that anymore. I'm doing other things, or did you continue to read for a while? How did you?
Did you try and just be friends? It sounds like you're asking to talk about his divorce.
Yeah, I mean,
it was a prolonged legal battle.
No, but it was kind of a weird situation when I left. I don't really want to go into any detail, but I mean, I was still reading the site after I left. But yeah, I mean, like Ellie, I just don't read a lot of gaming news anymore, to be honest. So, I'll occasionally still read something on Eurogamer or GamesIndustry.biz or whatever, but I don't kind of religiously visit every day like I used to do.
That's okay, you're forgiven.
If I did read a games website, it would be Eurogamer. That is absolutely true. All the other ones are completely shit. Is that better? Am I forgiven?
No, that's redeemed. Kristan, so you weren't here for the whole time you were here. You were editor, so 2002 to 2008, early 2009, and I think you swapped, and then you went. But so 6 years as an editor, which is it's roughly similar to Tom, I think, and I think only Oli is longer. How long? I'm curious about this. How long does it take you to kind of decompress from the role of being editor? Because you're carrying a lot, I presume, on your shoulders when that's happening. You're thinking about the site a lot. There's, the responsibility is on you. So how easy is that to kind of shrug off when you step out of the role? What was it like for you?
It was a weird one because it did happen relatively quickly, so I didn't have much time to kind of prepare. And then my 2-year-old got a broken leg, and I had to look after him immediately after leaving the site, and so he was like with me every day. So I sort of had this other focus, and there was also fun things going on in my personal life, and then sort of gradually I ramped up towards doing consultancy stuff. Plus I was back doing Eurogamer freelance on a sort of increasing basis because I'd reviewed over 1,000 games in my.
You are a review machine. I remember that.
So there was always some game or other that were like, we can give that to Kristan. So I would sort of, in some respects, I had a sort of nice transition between being a journalist and being a consultant. So sort of doing reviews, and I was doing freelance for masses of other people. So in many ways, my life hadn't changed all that much. I was so used to working from home while I was at Eurogamer. Like we'd go in like one day a week, and then that sort of annex off the Lohman house became too full. So actually Tom moved in with me in London, and we would do our stuff there. And then only in the last year was there an office at Wenlock House off North Street in Brighton, and so we had that sort of 1 year period of being in an office. So going back to working from home, it was like, well, I'd had sort of five and a bit years of working from home anyway, so it was like, well, just carry on really. So I think it was quite an easy transition from working from home to working from home.
I remember us all coming to your house in Willesden Green for the early editorial meetings. This is probably 2005, 2006.
That's right, yeah.
Then we would go to the pub nearby and have some drinks.
Once Pat Garrett joined in 2005, I think he sort of decreed that we should have these meetings, and quite a few of us, myself and Tom and Ellie, were all living in London. I think maybe Oli was. I don't know if Oli was at any point part of that, but Dan White.
It was before I was staff, but when I was freelancing for you guys, I used to come to your flat in Willesden Green to pick up like code or like a debug console or something.
Yeah,
so very weirdly around the corner from my now wife's family home. It's like literally like a stone's throw away. Oh, wow. So I'm in Willesden Green all the time these days. It's very strange. It's very strange. Always walking past that flat. Yeah, and
it was a good little spot to kind of be in London, because even though the company was based in Brighton, back in the day there were press events all the time in London. So it was actually incredibly convenient for me to be sort of in zone 2, stone's throw from a tube station. I could pop out, go to an event, and come back. It would be really simple. And actually, when I moved to Brighton in 2008 for that last year, it made things quite difficult suddenly, because then you'd have to make the effort to go into London. So good times in those days. There were lots of press events, which I'm sure is something you're going to ask us about in a minute.
I will. Yeah, I'll come on. I'm going to ask you now. So, is there a press event that comes to mind first when you say that? What's in your head immediately?
There was some wild ones. I mean, it was back in the day when there was just money just to burn. The industry just seemed
just money, full stop.
Yeah, there was one that in Vegas where Microsoft invited a bunch of people out, and they sort of flew myself, Kieran Gillen, and a couple of other journalists from our place in Vegas to the Grand Canyon for lunch. We had a picnic in the Grand Canyon, having stepped the helicopter down, and then 3/4 of an hour later flew us back. This is the kind of utter nonsense that would go on back
Chris,
then.
was that the one where Jay Allard, everyone turned up and Jay Allard was like, "Who wants to get fucked up?"
Oh, that was after E3. They did their kind of keynote speech.
Yeah.
They sort of pulled everyone into a bar. Yeah, he said literally said those words, and he came up with this sort of cocktail, which was he called a depth charge, where you sort of put tequila in a shot glass and then you sort of put it into like a pint of beer or something and drugged it. And lo and behold, they did actually get fucked up. They were senior industry executives getting absolutely wasted in front of our eyes. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So I remember this. I remember a feeling like when I kind of joined and when I started going on press trips that I'd already missed a sort of era of kind of slightly unhinged press events, which probably wasn't a bad thing. John, just to go back to you for a second, do you remember press trips being like this? Was this a big thing?
No, I think I missed out here. I don't know if it was just that we weren't quite big enough at that stage to get invited to these really wild press trips, or if maybe the industry was in a bit of a dip at that point or something. But yeah, I don't remember any kind of really extravagant press junkets or anything when I was at Eurogamer. When I was looking back through some of my old articles yesterday preparing for this, and I think the most interesting one I found was Medal of Honor Allied Assault, which launched at the Imperial War Museum in London, which wasn't enormously exotic, but they did have Dale Dye. Is it Dale Dye? Yeah. Who was a military advisor who's worked on everything from Saving Private Ryan to Starship Troopers. So it was kind of cool. But we didn't I don't really remember having a lot of these kind of wild parties or anything when I was at Eurogamer. Maybe I've just blotted that out. I mean, it was over 20 years ago now for me.
Yeah. Wow. So maybe it's like a small period of time. Tom, we'll come on to you next because I'm curious because you were editor of the site for about 6 years, I think, but you were at the site since 2000. So you had been there an enormous amount of time. What was it like? I still remember when you were leaving. I still remember sitting in a pub opposite where we are and being like, I can't believe you're leaving. This is like, you're Tom Bramwell, you know. What was it like for you leaving the role? How long did it take for you to kind of shake Eurogamer off, if at all?
Gosh, I mean, probably a good sort of 6 months to not be thinking about stuff day to day. But I mean, like Kristan, I had a lot of personal life. So like, I was literally my firstborn child was arriving at the same time. I think I was on paternity leave for about a month or 2 months before, something crazy like that. So like, that whole period is very blurry for me. And I went into a job at Riot Games about sort of 6 to 9 months later. So yeah, I can't really remember. I mean, but what I will say is that it was such a meaningful period of my life. I mean, it's like a large percentage of my life even now, right? So it was like nearly 15 years. And I had lots of amazing, like, formative experiences. Like I went from being a child, literally, I was like 16 when I started meeting up with Rupert and Nick in London and doing stuff with John, to, I left when whatever that was, like 14 years later. So I was pushing 30. And, yeah, that's like clearly an enormously significant portion of anyone's life. And that was definitely the portion of my life where I was like, live to work, as opposed to what I do now, which is live to paint Warhammer miniatures and play Destiny. But yeah, it stuck with me for a long time. It's really, really important part of who I am and who I was. But the thing that I'm really pleased is that I'm still pals with a lot of the folks that I worked with. It's not awkward talking to these lovely people who are on the call with us. And most of the memories I have now of Eurogamer are more to do with the people than anything that was to do with the work. I was thinking back this morning, like our ridiculous taxi rides to the Cole Messer, or with Ellie doing Peter Molyneux impressions, or driving
and Eve Gilmo.
And Eve Gilmo, bloody hell, yeah, that was
How do those impressions go, Ellie?
They're very expensive now, Bertie. Now I'm a professional comedian. I save them for Edinburgh. But yeah, it was a different time.
It was a very different time. But no, like so many lovely memories with all these folks. I think I probably went abroad with everyone. I went to lots of events in London with John, and then I went abroad quite a few times with pretty much everyone else on the call. So we've had like weird foreign experiences. Probably sounds quite exotic and weird, but they're not. It was like I said, all of my memories are just the people and the nice times, really. Apart from, it would be easy to look back and go, oh, this review, that, phone call, whatever, but that's not what really sticks with you over the long term. And it has been a long time now. Like, it's like literally 10 years since I left. So
does it surprise you? Does it surprise you now that we're sitting here and Eurogamer is 25? I think when you left, what was that? We were just coming up on 15, I guess.
That the maths checks out.
It was exactly 10 years ago. You left in November.
Yeah, well, I left
September.
It was the end of September. It was when Destiny came out.
Yeah.
Because and I know this because one of my leaving gifts was the Destiny Collector's Edition. That's right. Because I spent the preceding 2 months pasting links to it into every single meeting chat that I was in until people got the hint. Funnily enough, actually, I just remember you were talking to Kristan about his prolific reviewing. One of the things that we got Kristan when he left was a like bound paper, like book version of all of his reviews. I think
3 volumes.
It was 3 volumes, yeah, because it was so.
Have you still got that, Kristan?
I do, yeah. Do you want me to go and get them?
Yeah, read them all out now. Read them all out. Let's do an audiobook.
That was so.
That was incredible. Yeah.
Chris, I have so many wonderful memories of Kristan reviewing stuff, and us review, like when we lived together and we were reviewing things. Like when the GTA games were coming out, I think GTA San Andreas. Like we both had a copy of it, and you just like playing until literally dawn in the lounge of our flat, and me falling asleep and failing to get past like the first 10 hours or something, and Pat having a go at us for our review being late, even though we'd only had code for about like a day and a half. Those kinds of things.
Oh, Pat.
Yeah.
I should say, actually, mentioning Pat there are obviously in the early days of Eurogamer, when it was a smaller company, there are some other key figures who had a huge role in shaping Eurogamer as a site as well as the company. Obviously, Rupert Lohman, there was Pat, who is being referenced a few times, who I messaged recently, and we've been chatting a bit on
he's doing like travel logs and stuff now, isn't he? Isn't he studying French? He's doing some sort of
I've been over to France and seen Pat, I think a couple of summers ago, and saw him at a wedding last year or the other year, and Pat Garrett changed my life. So I've talked about this on stuff before, but it was Pat who said to me, you're trying to write games journalism like all the other games journalists because you think that's what you have to do, but you're actually quite funny. Why don't you just write like you're talking to me and just be funny? So I thought, I'll do that, and that worked out for me. So yeah.
So Ellie, when you left, you left and you started pursuing a career in comedy, which has obviously gone very well. Did you ever look back? How easy was it for you to detach?
Never. I thought I worked for IGN until you emailed the other day. I completely blocked it out. I can't remember anything. No, I write little bits for Keza now and again and stuff, and I like that. But I like now just being able to write about stuff that I care about and like. And I really didn't expect to get that much back into video games, but then the lockdown happened and Twitch happened, so I started doing that, and then that's what that was. But I do look back on the press trips, which I know you mentioned, as just it was a golden age.
So come on, which ones do you remember? It
was ridiculous. I once got flown to Japan to see Vanquish, and like we were there for like 5 days, and like we only saw the game for like one day. And then they were like, by the time they'd done it, they were like, oh, you've only got 12 minutes with this bloke to interview him. And I was like, okay, I have flown halfway around the world, but it's your fucking money, whatever you like. And then they came to me and they went, oh, actually, we're overrunning. You've got 8 minutes. And with an interpreter, of course, that means you've really got 4 minutes. So you flown me to Japan to talk to a man for 4 minutes. Brilliant. Let's go. So it was stuff like that. And then, there was the press trip that wasn't a press trip where we were supposed to go and see the Ghostbusters game. This was like years ago, and we were going to go to Comic-Con and interview Dan Aykroyd. And then the night before, Vivendi went bust or whatever it was, whatever happened to it, I can't remember. And the PR rang me and was like, so obviously the game's not happening, the interview's not happening, but I did book all the hotels and flights on a non-refundable deal on a credit card. Do you want to still go? And I rang Kristan and I went, look, I'm going to be honest, it's not happening, but I'd really like to go. And he was like, yeah, just go and scrounge some news out of Comic-Con, it'll be fine. So that was brilliant. And it was on that trip where we went to Mexico for a day. That was a good time.
Jesus.
I've got a feeling I know who this PR might have been.
Was it Cat Shannon?
Lost the miss of time.
Cat Shannon?
Yeah, it was. Who's obviously the best PR that ever lived. So there was that. And I did appreciate it at the time. Like I did remember feeling really lucky, and that it was a real privilege to be having all these fancy hotels and meals and not have to do much work. And I was at GDC in San Francisco at the sweet party, and it was like 3 or 4 a.m. or something. Yeah. And then I was out on the balcony. Okay. What did you think I meant, Bertie?
I thought you meant the sweets.
You're so pure, Bertie. You're such an innocent child.
Yes, there were a lot of. I mean, they told me they were Mentos. No. Could have been anything. People just kept giving me them. No, it was, and it was. I remember the sun was like coming up, and I was on this balcony of this 5-star hotel, and there were all these like big wigs, and it was just all. And I had a real moment, and I texted my mum, and I just said, "Oh, I just wanted to say I feel really lucky, and I'm having such a lovely time, and I miss you, and just wanted to let you know I'm doing really well, and I'm really happy." Aww. And I got a message back saying, that's really lovely and what a nice message to receive. But I am not your mother. And it was then I realised that I'd inherited Tom's phone because we had company phones, and God forbid I could have been bought a new one. Tom had given me his old one. And it still had his contacts in it because it was all Sims and that in them days. And I texted Tom's mum to tell her what a lovely time I was having. But
at least it was a wholesome message.
At least I didn't send her a tit pic or something. It's fine. But yeah, the one to end all press trips was the Scarface trip, which is where I met Oli in Spain. Yeah. I mean, you say it, Oli.
I was writing for Edge at the time. You were already on Eurogamer, and it was Vivendi again. Surprise, surprise! And it was the star of the show was their Scarface PS2 game, which was there. Let's try and do a GTA Lite and slap a old movie license on it. And they had a bunch of other stuff there as well. But what it actually was burning a pile of World of Warcraft cash before the end of the tax year was the purpose of the trip. And they'd just taken over this entire resort in Marbella, I think.
No, do you remember they booked the whole hotel and they just paid for the people who'd already booked to go to other hotels, but there was one Scottish family who refused to leave. Yeah.
And so they were in this hotel that had like Scarface the movie playing really loud on all TVs all the time.
And they had motion activated speakers in the hallway. So if you walk down the hallway, it'll go, fucking cocaine in the fucking and I remember seeing this really angry red-faced Scottish dad at reception going, "This is absolutely unacceptable!" And then like the receptionist going, "You were offered an alternative, sir. You really didn't have to stay here." And his little children just been like, yeah.
It was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. They had a helicopter flybys, a stunt man just like plunging out of the helicopter into the sea while we all sip cocktails on the beach. They had
cool.
They got stretch limos to take us from our like EasyJet flight to this resort. And then we got out, and then there were because it was all Scarface themes. There were like bikini clad models like serving strawberries on like silver platters.
Do you not remember the tigers? Do you remember the tigers?
The tigers, I do. So the PR had wanted to have like real caged tigers for when we had dinner, but it turned out that this was like extremely dangerous and
even in Spain against animal cruelty.
So they just painted up some women in tiger smoke. Body paint.
It was a different time. It was
actually a slightly grim spectacle. Even at the time, I was like, when you see all these like male games journalists crowding around these caged women painted like tigers taking pictures, I was like, no, there's something wrong here. But I had an amazing time, and I made friends for life with Ellie, which I certainly can't complain about. So,
John, I bet you're
there's
sorry.
There's to go, isn't there? We're only halfway through, but yeah.
John, I bet you're sorry that you missed out on all this. Listening back.
I'm beginning to think this is why Vivendi went bust from what you're talking about.
Partially.
I was just annoyed that there wasn't a male painted tiger. I would have been fine with that. Maybe they could have got that one from the Frosties advert. I think that would have been.
To be fair, Kat did actually ensure that there were a couple of hunks in like Speedos serving drinks as well. Like there was some kind of level of gender parity.
All about equality. That's right.
Oli, such a custodian of Eurogamer for a long time. I think you're the longest serving editor.
I think it's between me and Tom. I think it's pretty close. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure who edges that.
So, how was it for you when you went away? How was letting go of? I can't imagine what it's like holding all that in your head all the time. How was it just kind of letting the grasp kind of go? Was that an easy process for you?
Oh, it was lovely. I've got to be honest. It was really, really nice. But that's, and as I alluded to before, I think that's a function of the circumstances under which I left, which were like, I was really, really sad to let everyone go, to leave the people behind. The site itself, I think the main reason I left was that I'd been there for 14 years, and sometimes once you look at one thing for so long, it actually just starts to lose meaning. You can't really, it's like you can't really perceive it anymore. And the site was like, I actually didn't know what to do with it. I didn't feel like I felt like I'd successfully empowered Wes and Martin particularly to like lead the site. So I wasn't sure what my role in like taking it forward was. And the site had kind of lost that personal meaning for me, even if the relationships with the people really hadn't. Meanwhile, it had just been a really tough couple of years. Like the pandemic, getting the team through the pandemic had been really difficult. The year before 2019 had been quite tough for various reasons. We'd had a bit of a Google problem and a traffic slump and some other like staff issues. And then like we were going through the process of being acquired for the first time, and that integration with a new company was happening, which for a company that had been independent for pretty nigh on 20 years, and we were all used to basically doing our own thing, making our decisions the way we wanted to make them, and making mistakes, owning those mistakes, fucking up, changing it. It was a very, very different atmosphere, and like managing that change and being the point of contact between a team of very of journalists with very high standards and like changing management structures. It was hard work. So honestly, I was really happy to let it go. But a big part of that, like I said, was like knowing that the new leadership for the site was already in place and already leading the site. I'd managed myself out of a job, I think. Because Wes and Martin just already had it completely covered. So it was like it was a very strange thing to do because I had been there for 14 years, but it was also it was really liberating. It was nice to know that the site was in good hands and was already being led by other people, honestly. And it was nice because what I really wanted to do was just go back to being a writer, and I hadn't actually dared hope that I'd be able to do that because that's not the usual career trajectory. But I managed to like work something out with Polygon, and Chris Plant gave me this offer where I could do what I really wanted, which was to go back to writing every day. And then I discovered that what I had to do was write every day, and I was a bit horrified. But I'm over that now, so yeah, like very mixed emotions, but like I knew I'd chosen the right time to go in the end.
Do you still feel any lingering sense of responsibility over Eurogamer?
Yeah, it's his fault.
I blame him for Brexit. I mean,
absolutely. The European, eh? Mm.
Yeah.
I don't think you can let it go completely. Like, obviously, you take some decisions that are consequential. The most consequential of all is the hiring decisions that you make, obviously, that form the team for the future, and those are decisions that continue to have an effect long after you leave. So, yeah, definitely. And obviously, like the site's been through a lot of upheaval since I left, which doesn't feel great because you wonder if you could have done anything to smooth that path, but also to some extent it's obviously like forces way beyond my control are working there. So it also makes it feel more distant because now I'm like too like I bit knew what was going on up to the point that you were acquired by IGN and who all the people were, and now I've got no idea. So even though I'm still like obviously know you and know Tom very well and some other members of the team, Chris Tapsell, like it's the site feels further away from me and it's sort of easier to let go. And but also my brain is like Polygon coded now. Like that was a strange process. I think it was a stranger process than letting go of Eurogamer was like finding my way into the voice of a new site after I'd been in the voice of Eurogamer for 14 years. Like it's a subtle thing, like the voice of a website is composed of a lot of different variables, composed of all the personalities that go into it, the vision of the editorial leadership, and the kind of things you cover, the way you cover them, the way you approach them. And it took me a really long time to, even though Polygon is not all that different a site from Eurogamer, and I think has many of the same values, it still took me a really long time to learn all the subtle ways in which it was different, the way the audience was different, the way I was talking to the audience was different, the way I was approaching games, the mood of the coverage, all of that. It took me a long time to make that adjustment. So that shows you how deep Eurogamer was in my brain, I guess.
Yeah. Wes, it's a little bit more recent for you, of course. How was it? I mean, we talked a bit about it earlier, but how was it for you kind of stepping away from Eurogamer? I mean, I know from talking to you at the time that it wasn't necessarily something that you wanted to do. I guess because of what Oli had said, you know, you're kind of Eurogamer coded in a sense. Have you kind of wriggled out of that a bit now?
No. I don't know if I'm supposed to write in American English, and I fuck that up every day, and I can't get puns out of my brain. Like there's just, and it's not. I try and sneak them in at IGN, like.
So this is a policy, they don't like puns, or
no, it's not a policy.
He wouldn't have gone there if that was a policy.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah. It's not a policy. It's more just. It's just never. It's not really. You know, right? So we have Eurogamer is the. I think for age it was, you know, bad puns, wasn't it? It was part of the fabric of
video games.
Okay.
I mean, when I say bad puns, I mean like cheesy puns, right?
We actually put it in the mission statement at the
exactly
site under the name. Yeah, we did.
And it's hard to when you spend a lot of time, like we used to call it turning the wheel, didn't we? I'd literally turn my chair around.
Hang on. We need to you can't gloss over turning the wheel. We have to talk about the wheel.
Yeah, I know that was a huge part of the job. We'd spend ages thinking about puns for straplines. Ages. Like sometimes we'd spend half an hour talking about them in the office for one article. And
when I was reviewing Wii Shovelware, I would often spend longer on the pun than on the review.
Yeah.
Like it was a more worthwhile exercise. It felt like.
So that's just, you know, and I still do it almost like automatically with every article, knowing full well that, you know, puns aren't as much. They're not really a thing at IGN. But I still try and sneak them in just because. And like IGN is a American website, right? It's American first website, and I think the British humour that we have for puns on Eurogamer doesn't necessarily translate. And I've had I remember when I first joined IGN, I instantly said something silly in Slack. That was
what did you say? Come on,
I can't remember what it was. It just completely flew over. Like it was not a thing that was understood, and it was more like, you know, question mark baffled sort of thing. I was like, and very early on, I was like, okay, this is very different. Because and then that was the main thing. Is just like because I wasn't doing much writing towards the end at Gamer Network, and to go from that to like now I have to write every single minute of every day, pretty much.
Yeah.
And to leave my like 13 years, I think it was, of Eurogamer coded. This is how you write. Just to change to sort of the IGN style was quite. I still struggle with it, to be honest. So I love that was the main thing.
I love the puns are the one thing that's kind of survived for the whole 25 years that Eurogamer's been around. 'Cause I remember I always used to try and do that with like the subtitles on the stories and the like captions on screenshots and stuff. I think
you basically set up a sort of, if the puns are the cockroaches, John, you set up the cockroach colony without little.
And you're still infested with them 25 years later.
I
think my favourite review that I probably did at Eurogamer was just basically one entire long pun, which was Max Payne. I don't know if anyone remembers that one, but I wrote the entire review for Max Payne in first person in the style of Max Payne.
It was amazing.
John, are you the person who started the Eurogamer puns thing? Is that you?
Yeah, that was definitely.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I worked at Planet Quake for about a year before, and that was kind of quite tongue in cheek as well. So. I don't know if I just kind of carried that across from the work that I'd done at Planet Quake to Eurogamer, but
that's crazy. That's crazy to me because that is before Eurogamer, I wasn't really I'm not even sure I really knew what puns were. And now I can't look at anything without thinking about literally in the real world. I can't. My family hate me for it. It's just. So that you doing that has probably made more of a difference to my entire personality than anything that's ever happened to me. Like,
I'm sorry.
Finally meeting the person who's fucked me up, like living a normal life,
God.
is this is incredible.
It's like Luke Skywalker meeting Darth Vader. It's unbelievable.
Can I make 2 small points regarding puns, because it is obviously the most important thing. The first is you did mention the wheel, turning the wheel. So turning the wheel is a very key part of Eurogamer lore, and it comes from a chap who worked with us called James Grant. Is James still at Gamer Network?
Yeah.
Excellent. Shout out James Grant. But he used to work in sales, and he used to sit near me, and he loved puns, so he would get involved in the pun game. And we would sit there, like, I'd finish a review or someone would finish a review, and we'd be trying to figure out, like, the hell are we going to put the strap line? It's the most important part of the review. And he invented this idea of, it's like a water wheel. Everyone's feeding water into the water wheel to make it turn faster. So that was turning the wheel. And I'd be like, James, I just wrapped a review. And he's like, right, turning the wheel. Let's turn the wheel. And that was where that came from. The second,
I did not know that. I actually did not know that's where the origin story of turning the wheel.
That is turning the wheels, James Grant.
Wow.
The second thing was the one you asked before if we had any regrets, and I remember there was one strapline that we got an angry letter about, and it was for the. Do you remember there was like a dirt biking game? It was called something like Nailed, like NAIL apostrophe D.
This is so good. This is so good.
And we got an email from a guy, and he was just like, "Look, I love Eurogamer, I love your sense of humour, but this strapline's actually gone a little bit too far, because it was called Nailed, and it was about dirt bikes. So I'd put Christ on a bike," which, and I remember getting the email and thinking, that is a bit tough. But yeah, you asked if there's anything you regret. I just wanted to clarify, I definitely don't regret that at all. It was brilliant then, and it's still brilliant.
Doing something right when you get a letter.
Angry letter about essentially blasphemy was just a highlight of my year, really.
So yeah. Time is slipping away from us a little bit here. So I want to get onto kind of favourite memories, which is kind of on the press trip vibe, and maybe proudest memories, and maybe favourite kind of moments. The things, it's a difficult thing because people have worked here for years, so trying to condense that into one or two things is tricky. But Kristan, is there a piece of work? It might not be a piece of work. It might be something the site did at the time. What are you proudest of about your time at Eurogamer? And if you have a favourite story related to that, or even separate from that, feel free to share.
Because I came from print, and going from print to a burgeoning website in 2002, it was very clear that the resources we had were minuscule. Like between myself, Tom, and Martin, and with a sort of bit of help from Rob Fahy on games industry, we would sort of turn out so much stuff.
Oh, Martin, of course.
So much stuff was like, Tom was just a news writing machine. We get sort of 11 stories done by 11 a.m. and then be off playing a game. The amount of reviews that we would do between such a small number of people was just unprecedented. There was nobody else probably in the world that could turn out the amount of copy that we were managing to do, and to take it from what was a burgeoning website to essentially sort of pissing off the print mags, and then probably causing them to shut down. It's not something I'm necessarily proud of, but it's a mark of how quickly Eurogamer went from a fairly small hardcore readership to being able to kind of mix it with the big boys and be able to go on those lavish press trips with all of the established old guard print press guys. Was just it was a kind of magical transformation in the space of sort of about 4 years, really. By about 2006, we were it felt like we'd arrived. We sort of hired people like Oli, Kieran Gillen, Jim Rossignol. We had all Alec Meir. We'd basically we'd got most of Rock Paper Shotgun before Rock Paper Shotgun existed, working for Eurogamer. We just seemed to have a knack of pulling in the best people around, even though we weren't necessarily paying as much as they were getting paid elsewhere, there was a sort of kudos that sort of built up very quickly with Eurogamer. And it sort of came from that initial burst of activity that we sort of managed to implement early on. It kind of made people go, oh yeah, we'd go into meetings and they were like, oh yeah, you're my, Eurogamer's our homepage. And we look at it every morning, and this was a story that sort of went on over and over again in those first 3 or 4 years. And I'd say I'm proud of being able to really establish the site as a force. Isn't there one specific kind of piece of work? I don't think, but the kind of the work ethic we had and the ability to kind of like punch well above our weight was an incredible moment in time.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember it. Well, there was a sense when I joined, not long before Ellie, back in 2005, that this site was scrapping for everything. Was kind of fighting to be noticed and was being noticed. There was a wonderful sense of momentum to it, and I remember what you were saying about people wanting to write for them as well. It was a bit like the Cool Kids Club, wasn't it? Which I guess was testament to the work that John, I guess, had started and that Kristan and Tom had taken on at that point. So it was great. Let's jump. I'm going to jump around a little bit in time here. Ellie, do you have a favourite story from your time at Eurogamer, or favourite memory of your time here, and perhaps something you're proudest of? Not the Alan Wake.
I'm proud of everything I ever did. All of it's completely brilliant. I'm on the right side of history for every single review score, including Sonic 4. No, I'm most proud of the long form pieces I did, actually. So I wrote some really long pieces about Gizmondo and Games Master and the PlayStation. And I was proud of those. I liked doing executive interviews a lot because I just couldn't really take them that seriously. And quite a lot of the better executives seemed to enjoy that, really. And I think I got away with quite a lot because I realised quite early on that I didn't look like most games journalists, and therefore, especially if I put like a suit on, they would tell me more things and they would treat me a bit differently, and I could exploit that for personal and commercial gain. That was like really fun. Although it sort of, obviously, also being a woman, I did get quite patronised quite a lot. Like if I walked around a show floor, people would always be like, do you want me to show you how to use the controller? And I'd be like, if you watch my Twitch channel, you might say that's an entirely necessary process, but I do know that it's basically press X to jump. Like I have touched a PlayStation before, so I'm proud that I did all sort of that and worked it out. And it's nice that women these days say that the things that me and Keza and the other 3, I think, women who were doing it in those days have helped them. So I'm proud of that. But most of all, like you were saying, it just felt really good. It felt like we were in a fun little gang and we all worked incredibly hard. And I loved all that. And I'm proud that, that was part of my story of being in games, which later led me to holding 3 Guinness World Records. Not something I like to talk about a lot, but that's where I am now, Bertie, and the Eurogamer is a big part of my story. So thank you.
The world record. This was for like the highest point that a game had been played. Is that? No, that was your stand-up gig.
For God's sake, I thought you followed my career closely. Now I've got the world record for the highest ever stand-up comedy gig, which did at the base of Mount Everest. Thanks for asking. And I've got the longest time playing Power Wash Simulator and the longest time playing a video game in the simulation genre. So how many world records have you all got? Have you got any or have you not?
Pass.
Have you been here almost longer than? Have you been at Eurogamer longer than any of us, though, Bertie?
I think he has at this point.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
How long have you been a Eurogamer, Bertie?
19 and a half years.
19 and a half years.
Wow.
Ooh.
Amazing. My favourite memory of you, Bertie, and there are many, because you are genuinely one of the, I'm not even being hilarious, you are one of the kindest, funniest, sweetest people I've ever met. And I just think you're brilliant generally. But my favourite memory of you is we'd all gone out in a night in Brighton. It might have been like a company party or a meeting or something. Do you remember this? And I was your boss
a Christmas
at the time.
Party.
Was it a Christmas party? And you came in, God bless you, you came into work the next day. Because it was a different time. I get on my soapbox with the young people now. Oh, I've got a bit of a headache. Shut up. You drank 18 pints, get up, come into the office. That's what we did. And that's what you did, Bertie. And you came in, you were absolutely spanners. I think you were still wearing a cowboy hat and a lot of glitter. And you sat down at your desk and I was like, are you all right? And you were like, yeah. And I was like, okay. And you were like, I'm going to write some news. And I was like, okay, good for you. And you wrote a couple of stories. And then I think in the second or third story, for some reason, you'd had to refer to Eurogamer and you spelt the name of our website wrong in the story and put it on the internet, I think. And then I was reading it and you'd spent it Eurogamer. And I just had to go, Bertie, it's all right, babe. Just go home. We'll start again tomorrow. But God bless you. You made it in.
I remember that. I mean, hazily, but yeah, I do remember that. God, it doesn't seem like that long ago.
Seems like yesterday to me.
Seems like yesterday. John, it's been a long time, but are there? Maybe we mentioned it earlier, but is there something you're proudest of? And did you have a favourite memory of your time with Eurogamer?
Yeah, I mean, like Kristan was talking about earlier, it was quite a rapid trajectory early on. Obviously I was there from the start, literally launched it from a blank page. I remember we launched ECTS in 1999. For our younger viewers, ECTS was a trade show that they used to have in London every year, which is long since gone. But yeah, we launched it in 1999 at ECTS, and because it was a brand new site, I was literally having to blag my way into press conferences and back rooms and stuff to see all of the demos. I remember having to blag my way into a Blizzard press conference that turned out to be the announcement for Warcraft 3, which was fun. Wow. That was one of our first big kind of stories, I guess, right after we launched. And then by the time I left 3 years later, my last ECTS, we were the official online media partner for the show. So that gives you kind of an idea of, quite how quickly we went from literally nothing to being one of the kind of top gaming sites in the UK. In terms of fondest memories, I think it's probably the esports coverage that we did. So, obviously the Lohman brothers who founded the site came from that background. I first met them covering, I think it was a LAN party or a tournament or something for Planet Quake when I worked there. And then when they started up Eurogamer, they kind of got back in touch with me like, hey, you're interested in coming to work for us? And we did quite a lot of esports coverage early on. So I think one of my favorite ones was when we went over to Dallas for the Racer CPL, which at the time was, I think, the biggest prize pot that had been in a professional gaming tournament, which was at the time the unheard of sum of $100,000, which is probably like 10th place in a tournament these days. But back then it was a lot of money for someone to make just playing Quake. And I was on the 11th floor of the hotel, so I was down there in the basement watching all of the games taking place and all of the conferences and stuff around it, and scrolling notes in a notepad, and then going up 11 floors in the elevator to type it up on my laptop and post it on the website. And I think I ended up posting about 40 pages of coverage from that event. The event luckily was sponsored by an energy drink called Balls, which I don't know if that still exists anymore, but yeah, I literally spent the entire weekend just drinking bottle after bottle of this disgusting energy drink called Balls. And that just kind of fueled me for just, writing this incredible volume of content, from sort of live, almost live reports on the matches that were taking place to, they had speeches from John Carmack and John Romero and people at the show as well. It was just really cool kind of getting to meet these legends who are kind of the reason I'm in the gaming industry in the first place. I mean, I started out in the Doom modding community, and then onto Quake, and then working for Planet Quake, writing about Quake mods essentially. So yeah, it's kind of thanks to them that I'm here today. So it's cool to kind of see them in the flesh. So I think that's probably my fondest memory. The other thing is, it was actually my birthday during the event, because it was in April, and yeah, literally me and a bunch of the contestants and some other people went out, and we had like dinner at some seafood restaurant, and then went to watch a Jet Li movie at some dingy little cinema in a mall. But yeah, it was great experience. Had a lot of fun there, and somehow survived overdosing on balls.
You know what? They still when I went to QuakeCon about 10 years after that, they still had balls as a sponsor. So
that's amazing. Yeah,
something in Dallas, I guess. I was going to ask John. I remember one of the things I remember about you when we worked together is your prodigious collection of Region 1 DVDs. You would always, like every day, it would be like, I just got 3 more DVDs through the post. Do you still have your massive DVD collection?
I do. Let me see if I can just kind of pan around. So. Let's see if we can. There we go. So all of those are DVDs in the cupboards over there.
Superb.
Yeah.
People who are watching this, we're seeing about 3 sort of shelves wide, floor to ceiling, stacked with what looks like DVD cases.
Was that also?
Look at Kristan's record collection. Who's got the most physical media?
Whoa. Wow. Yeah, that's impressive.
Kristen. We'll get onto Kristan, but I was going to say to John, do you remember you went on one of I can't remember if it was that trip or something else when you came back with a scooter? Do you remember the scooter?
No, I think that was from New York.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You guys went over to New York and you came back with a scooter and you like scooted around Leicester a lot. Is what I remember.
Yeah, that was fun, except that it was quite a cheap scooter and it fell apart while I was riding it. Like literally, the bolt flew out of it, and the handlebars suddenly weren't actually held in place anymore, and it was trying to fall down while I was riding it along a bumpy pavement in Leicester. So
you should have got a Region 1 scooter. Much better.
No, we can't get through the podcast though with John here without talking about Halo. 8 out of 10. Because if there's a memory, we have to explore from that era. What do you remember? So, I'm curious about that period, John.
Yeah, I just want to say a quick intro to this to people who don't know. There's another bit of Eurogamer deep lore, I suppose. Better than Halo was a catchphrase on Eurogamer that was born out of this 8 out of 10 Halo review, which was this infamous score that we gave the game, because obviously people, I assume, expected that it should have a higher score, but I wasn't at the site at the time. So John, I guess, take us back there. What happened?
So I mean, Microsoft, we actually had a pretty good relationship with Microsoft. Sony, for some reason, just did not want to work with us back when I was at Eurogamer. It was very hard to get even review copies out of them, let alone a console or anything. Whereas when Microsoft launched the Xbox in Europe, they literally sent us an Xbox and all of their launch titles for the console. Obviously, the only problem was I was living in Leicester at the time. Eurogamer was based in Brighton on the south coast, and half of the staff were in London. So we were kind of scattered all over the country. We couldn't really get together to actually, try stuff out multiplayer, because there was no Xbox Live back then. If you wanted to play multiplayer, you basically had to get 2 guys on a couch and play split screen. So I was mostly reviewing the game based off the single player campaign. And, honestly, I would stick with that 8 out of 10 now, certainly as far as the single campaign goes. It was one of those games where I imagine to someone who came from a console background, it was absolutely revolutionary. But coming from a PC gaming background, having grown up, and come out of the modding community from first-person shooters, it was like, I've seen all of this before somewhere else. Like, literally, the opening sequence of Halo is pretty much copy and pasted from Unreal, for anyone who remembers that.
John,
so it was like
Wesley Yin-Poole's eyes boring.
I'm just
it was
loving getting the origin story.
Yeah. So it was a really solid game. It was well put together. Parts of it were absolutely brilliant, but then you kind of got to the middle of the game, and then it just got very cookie cutter. It was like there were lots of obviously prefab bits where they just taken one bit of level and then said, okay, we need to make the game an hour longer to hit our target time, so we'll just go literally copy and paste this and rotate it 180 degrees and put some different enemies in the room. So yeah, it got a little bit, especially once the Flood appeared. I just found them a lot less interesting than the little cute alien guys with the funny voices and the purple sparkly guns.
So you wrote this,
the gnomes,
and it got a bit spicy in the comments, presumably.
A little bit. I mean, I don't really remember, the comments that we got at the time, but obviously because we were, 8 out of 10 for me is still a really good score. I was quite stingy with my scores. I only gave out like a couple of 10 out of 10s in the entire time I worked at Eurogamer. So, I mean, it's not like 8 out of 10 is a terrible score, but because everyone else was giving it 10 out of 10, it was like suddenly we were this extreme outlier. It was like, oh my God. And then, 8 out of 10 just became this kind of weird internet meme that everybody kept repeating for years afterwards.
But the thing also needs to be put in context, which is there was no social media, there was no like Xbox, like the comments were basically the only place you'd see this, except for people coming up to us at like live events or would post comments on other reviews where we liked something and go, oh lol, better than Halo then. So that's where that kind of came from. But yeah, no, it's good really that it happened in that era, because if you had done that in say 2015, you would have been literally killed. It's much better this
way. Try giving Metal Gear Solid 4 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10, yeah.
So Tom Bramwell, since we got you there, so is there something you're most proud of on Eurogamer? And do you have any favourite memories?
I'm most proud of every time I open the TikTok app on my phone, seeing Ellie Gibson interviewing the Weasley twins. I'm so happy every time I see that video. Do you know what? I know it's sort of corny, but like I know everyone's been talking about how much that it just felt like we're a gang and having fun. Like we had a really lovely group of people and a lovely culture, and like you see from all of the headlines around the games industry, not just now but forever really, that's so rare. We didn't have office politics. We didn't have people like being like assaulting each other and generally being horrible to each other. We were all just mates and friends and formed lifelong bonds with each other, and it's just that's so nice that could have been a thing.
I think it's testament to that situation that so many people here worked alongside each other for so long. There was so much overlap. People would stay at Eurogamer for a long time. Shout out karaoke. I'm going to actually brief interlude. I was so impressed because I'm a massive show off at karaoke or whatever. I don't mind being loud and silly, but I was so impressed when everyone here got into a karaoke room. It was just like transformative. Everyone just went crackers. It was brilliant.
But we all
I can't remember how many times we've done karaoke.
I would say quite a lot. I mean, like that was the thing though. Like it was a great group, and that's the thing that like I said, that I'm still proudest about is that the part I played in helping bring those people together. And you see people like yourself and Tom Phillips who are like thriving still. I remember when we first hired Tom, and I interviewed him, and he literally had just come down from college, and there he is, and he's got this wonderful life in Brighton and this great job, and he's so he's got this great career that he's built for himself as well. It's just like those sorts of things. It makes me happy to see. Far more so than any of the stuff we wrote. Like I'm perfectly happy with the stuff we did, generally speaking. But it's the human side of it. It's the stuff that you'll actually remember for the long term, I think.
Is there a favourite memory that kind of bubbles up to the top?
I think when we got everyone together for the first like Eurogamer site specific like annual general meeting, and we even brought over Jeffrey from the States, and we were just all together in one place, and like that was that was a family of people enjoying it. Like it felt like that was a very special period. I think I've never loved a job quite like I loved Eurogamer at times, and I really that moment was special, and it was it's the people.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely.
That sounded a bit dangerously like we're all swingers, and that party it all went.
Keys in the in the fruit bowl.
What a party that was!
I'll jump to.
You did ask. I wanted to also single out a great time involving Kristan, because I don't think he was at that one. But do you remember when we went to E3, Kristan, and you'd just got a camcorder, and this was like video wasn't really a thing. YouTube basically didn't exist, and I just remember you going to all of these sessions with and just recording them. and then managing to upload it on the internet. And it was incredible because no one had really this was the period when the sessions you were going to were like behind closed doors for Half-Life 2 and things like that. So there was some like absolutely insane videos. Do you remember?
Oh yeah,
that was special. So yeah, I remember those of a lot of the E3 stuff was like most fun memories for work. But anyway, I've talked.
Kristan, do you still have those recordings?
I've got a lot of archive stuff. Yeah, I was when you were talking about karaoke a minute ago. I was remembering there was one particular session where I think Tom, Oli, Ellie, possibly you, Bertie, all there. Lots of photos, really, wigs and Christ knows what. It was all very good fun. Kez was there as well. Some good times. I've got a shitload of videos and photos. I am Mr. Documentarian for all things archival. So if you need any nostalgia, then just hit me up.
If one of us is murdered, you can send it all to Netflix, and then they can do a documentary, can't they? Why don't we run one of us murder each other?
Oh God! Because it did actually turn up in a Netflix documentary not that long ago, late last year, I think. There was this Gamergate thing, and there was like a web of journalists, and she was on there, and someone freeze framed the screen and took a picture of it and sent it to her. So yeah, more likely than you think.
Goodness.
Well, I've applied for Love Is Blind UK season 2, so let's see.
Wow, that archive footage! I've seen no clip have been restoring some archive footage from E3 from 2005 or so. You've probably got some gold dust on there somewhere.
Yeah.
Oli, I'm going to jump to you quickly. You talked about some of the things you're most proud of, but is there anything else that kind of stands out while we're on the subject? And if you have a favourite memory that...
In terms of favourite memories, and this is carrying on the thought, like we've talked about the press trips, the press junkets, those are always wild and good for a story, but the real fun was the trade shows. Was like, going to Tokyo Game Show with you, Ellie, in like 2008. That was an absolutely wild ride. Or even like going to Leipzig and Cologne for those. But E3 was always the one, right? And you didn't even have to be on the away team because it was just as fun, almost as fun, to be back at home, to be in the crew that would stay up all night. We'd get hotel rooms in Brighton, those of us who didn't live there, and we'd stay up all night in the office in Brighton. Getting pizzas in and just like hammering out coverage for all this stuff that was happening in the middle of the night for us. And it was just such a buzz to be out there. I always preferred it to the press trips in the end because you were the master of your own destiny. You had to work really hard, but you could play really hard. You were out there like just trying to find an edge, to do your jobs, to get a story. And the buzz was just amazing. And also the events themselves were incredible. I think my favourite memory from one of those was one year we'd flown out with Rupert, and the day we'd flown out to E3 had been Rupert's birthday on the day, and the people at the hire car place saw him coming and persuaded him to upgrade our minivan that we booked to like a Cadillac Escalade. So this is like absolutely gigantic, like a pearl-coloured SUV. Which I was the designated driver, so I was then like cruising this beast of a car around LA all week, and it was also like a really crazy year. This was the year that, in the space of a few days at press conferences, we saw Pete Sampras, Pele, the two surviving Beatles.
Was that the year that the Who played, and I just stood at the back with Steve Hill going, "Do CSI, play CSI."
It was actually I remember that, but it was just I think the year after. You had Jay-Z and Eminem promoting DJ Hero, Steven Spielberg, James Cameron, like all these insanely famous people. But Activision had this party for DJ Hero, Jay-Z, Eminem, and someone else played. I don't remember who. And at the end of it, everybody comes out of this theatre on Wilshire where the party had been. And we parked our car in the parking structure across the way, and then we went and got in our car and came out, and then all of our rivals at Future Publishing were like crowded on the sidewalk, just like desperately trying to hail a cab along with about 70 other people. And we just cruised past them, like playing Eminem on the stereo of our giant Escalade.
I remember I was in the passenger seat, just with the window like, and yeah, I think
That reminds me.
I played a lot of UK garage in that Escalade, and I'd never been in a car with heated seats before. And the first time you put them on, I thought I'd wet myself. It was a golden memory.
It reminds me of the New York trip we were talking about earlier. When it got to the end and we were all going back to the airport, we realised that it would actually, for what it would have cost us to hire like 2 or 3 normal sedan taxis to take us to the airport, we could just hire a limo and everybody go in the limo. So that's what we did. We left New York in a limo.
I remember.
I still have photos somewhere of like me and the Loman brothers and some other people in the back of a limo on our way out of New York after that trip.
So yeah, like
nice.
I have to say I do more in E3. Like I don't like, as a sensible, right-thinking person, I'm like, no, it's actually a pointless waste of time these days. It doesn't really work anymore. I understand why it's not. Nobody can seem to get it together to hold that event, but I do really miss it, because that was the moment the whole industry came together, and you were out there as a team, like representing yourselves and doing the best for your readers, and it was always just a total thrill. So those, like, my fondest memories are always the trade shows.
I was thinking about that time when we went out there, and who was the is it David Reeves, the Sony manager, and he and I, and we were, it was like a Sony Europe event, and we were standing next to a pool, and I was interviewing him, and we were both smashed, like absolutely. He was on like his 6th glass of wine or something, and I was trying to ask him about Ratchet and Clank, and he kept calling it the wrong thing. It was called Ratchet and Clank Quest for Booty, and he kept calling it request for booty. And I was like, I could barely hold it together. I almost fell in the pool. It was amazing.
I got a lot of things like that. I got in trouble with a press trip for it once, because I kept referring to it as the game with the furry monkey and the metal baby. And they didn't like it. They really didn't like it. It was a good time.
Oh,
Wesley, how about you, to come to you last but not least? Over there, is there something that you're most proud of for Eurogamer, and is there a favourite memory that you have that bubbles up?
Karaoke, I think I'm most proud of, for sure. Every single time we went, I tried my very best. I think it. When I first joined, it was to work on the news team and to try and just flesh that out a little bit and do a bit more. And
you had a pretty good news team back then, I seem to remember.
I remember.
Who was on that team, Bertie?
I mean, we had to hire him because there were so many problems with it. Just wasn't hitting the mark.
Yeah, I'd heard rumours about someone who just was constantly pissed.
Hang on, that could have been any of us.
But that was the Wenlock office, and me and Bertie were in a cupboard.
Yes.
It was a cupboard, let's be honest, and sat opposite each other in this cupboard. It was one of the sweatiest cupboards ever created, with like just both our PCs pumping out disgusting hot air, and Tom Phillips joined, and Tom the editor now. When he first joined, his job was sort of admin focused. It was more like back end stuff, assets, and sorting out the CMS. It quickly became apparent that he should be a news writer, and I think what I'm most proud of is being part of that close knit news team right at the start, which was like in a cupboard, and then over the next sort of 10 years, I think turning it into the best news operation in all of games media. Like, I genuinely believe at points Eurogamer had that, and we were doing some really, really fantastic stuff. And I loved working with you, Bertie, on it, Tom, everyone else who was working on news at the time. We worked on some amazing stories that really did make an impact. Sometimes the things I think about are like staying late in the office, the other office after that one, working with people on stories, and when you finally sort of crack it and you know that it's ready to go and you just know the impact it's going to have, and just that whole process over those years and sort of making some of that stuff happen. I was so proud of being a part of that and working with some amazing people on the news team. So that's what I think about. That and karaoke. They're the things that I think about.
Yeah, but shut up about your cupboard. At least you had your own toilet. When I used to go to the office, which I meant it was only once a month, there was the gents' toilet, and then there was the pooing toilet, which I had to use. I had to use the pooing toilet. But to be fair, I was the only girl. I was only there once a month. So what are you going to do? It was a different time. I could sue you now.
Yeah, you still should. They've got, like, I mean, now it's IGN, so that's real money.
Oh, I'm going to bring this to an end here because it's gone on for an hour and a half. This is longer than I wanted to keep everyone, but I'm enjoying it. There's so much more I could talk about and kind of reminisce, stories, years worth of stories. And it's reminded me, having everyone here today, how much fun we used to have. We did some good work along the way, but it was a lot of fun. And it's been a genuine pleasure working alongside all of you. John, I'm sorry that I didn't get to work with you. And I've loved hearing you talk about, the origination of the 8 out of 10 better than Halo. And I didn't realize that you entrenched this whole, not only the pun kind of mentality, but also this kind of strict scoring that I know Eurogamer was known for, that had that was what Eurogamer was known for over the years. So I want to say a massive thank you to all of you for taking time to do this today. I hope you've had fun reminiscing, maybe learned something along the way. I don't know. But I'm going to go around and thank everyone. Tom Bramwell, thank you very much for being here. I'm just doing this clockwise. Oli Welsh, thank you very much for coming back from Polygon's gilded embrace to talk to us. Ellie Gibson, thanks for making us laugh so much again.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. It's genuinely been lovely to see all your faces again in a sort of Panini sticker album format of Eurogamer stuff. I've very much enjoyed it, so thank you.
Who's the shiny one? That's the question. Wesley, you're next on my row of people. Thank you very much for coming into the office. Well, sort of office. Again, it's lovely. It's lovely getting a bit closer to you again with IGN so close now. John Bye, it's been a real pleasure meeting you. Thanks so much for starting it all.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure meeting you all, and obviously seeing Tom again from back in the days. It's been a long time, so yeah, great to see everyone. Great to see Eurogamer still going strong 25 years later.
Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry for accusing you of making tuna and ketchup sandwiches earlier as well. Kristan
Thank you
Reed,
for everything, John, as the founding father. It feels a bit like meeting God, so I've very much enjoyed it. Thank you.
It does.
Need any record reviews?
Yeah, so but you can't see people. Kristan is sat there's like 3 sort of Kallax size.
They're bigger.
Bigger than Kallax size bookshelves filled with vinyl. How much? Do you have a rough idea how much vinyl you have there, Kristan?
About 6,000.
You know by tonnage, don't you? Because you had to transport it from Brighton to Glasgow.
So
how many vans was it?
About 3.
Holy shit!
And I
Do
had
you
a
have
double
a favourite
hernia.
record?
I'm
going to go off on a
operation. Do I have a favourite record? Probably boringly one of the Beatles records, like the White Album or something. That's the one that I come back to over and over again.
Okay, my new goal is to have more Guinness World Records, and Kristan's got actual records.
Yeah, you got
What's
records.
next, Ellie? What's the next world record to go for?
Oh, I don't know. I've been playing a lot of Supermarket Simulator, but it's a big old commitment, isn't it?
You know, how many
That is a
records
commitment.
do you play in one stretch without stopping?
A Supermarket Simulator. I've only done a few hours, but I did used to work in a Sainsbury's where I would do like 10 hours. So I know I've got the chops, but I did also really hate that job. So it's difficult, isn't it? There's something to weigh up.
It's difficult. Kristan, thank you very much for being here today. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. For those of you who are listening, thanks for listening this far. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm Bertie. This was 25 years of Eurogamer with the editors who made it what it was. -2, of course, Tom, Phillips, and Martin. You're with us in our hearts. That's
They're
it
not
for
dead!
They're at Gamescom.
How do you know? They might be dead.
Never forget.
Oh,
never
God.
forget.
Never forget. You're
Never
with us
truly
in
gone. They're alive in here. They're alive in here, Bertie. Always with me. I've got a lock of
Thank you,
Martin's hair
everyone.
in here. Look.
So stop it before it goes crazy. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining me here. I'm going to end it there. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.